All right. So if you look up on the screen here now, please. All right. This is the handout that I gave you, but I've also got it on here so anybody who's watching the tape can see it too. Now, like I said, did I make it better? I guess that's a matter of opinion. But I tried to clean some stuff up in the first copy that I gave you that I think this at least reads a little bit better. Again, you may or may not agree. You may have done it like this. You may have done it in a totally different way. All right? But notice when I set up the numbers, just to show you again that you can, all right, I set up those two numbers, or I'm sorry, those two variables, number and is prime, and this time I explicitly stated their data type. Then I immediately made some checks in here. All right, so this, forget about the stuff on the bottom here on line 36 and below. This is all the stuff that's going to do the prime checking. All right, and notice in here I've got if number equal 1, else if number equal 2, else if, you may or may not realize this, but when I go back and rewrite this again, I'm going to rewrite it just to show you that you can use the new and improved switch statement to do most of this stuff too. All right, so you're going to get another copy of this. But I'm also going to go and take this line of code right here, that line, and I'm going to make that into its own function. I'm going to overload, just create my own function to do that in just a second. But notice, if the number is 1, is prime is false. If the number is 2, is prime is true. Otherwise, if the number is divisible by 0, it's false. So now, anything I'm checking inside of this loop, I should only have to be checking even or odd numbers, correct? There's other ways that you can fix this. All right, you may or may not be aware. I mean, there's certain mathematical qualities. For example, if a number ends in 5, it must be divisible by 5. All right, if you add the digits of a number up, regardless of how big the number is, if you could keep adding and keep adding and keep adding those digits, eventually you'll get a number, a single number. If that single number is 3 or 6 or 9, that number is divisible by 3. All right, I could have tried to write something like that. After a while, you're like, okay, am I going to run this program faster by putting in a function like that that checks it, or just letting the computer figure it out? All right, and sometimes you don't know. All right, and that's not maybe a great example, but sometimes it's like there might be a built-in function, or you can write your own. So which one do you do? Depends. Is what you're working on time sensitive? If it is, you might have to write your own. But when we get down to here, I know that it's an odd number. So I say, okay, whatever that number was, all right, what I want to do is I want to square it, or get the square root of it, and I want the ceiling of that square root. And then I want to go in my loop from 3 till that square root and add 2 every time. And if I check, and if that, so for instance, let's say that I had 27. All right, now it gets to 3, 27 divided by 3, modulo 3 is 0. So it's going to say it's false, but let's say it's not. Let's say it's 29. So 29 divided by 3, no. So else continue. Remember what continue means? That means go back up to the next iteration of the loop. All right, and again, I just kind of did this, and then I found that I didn't think I printed out a copy for myself, so I just wrote it. But I'm going to go back, and right now, I'm going to see if I can make another change to this. Again, I'm going to try to take all of this, all of that, and put it into a switch statement. And in addition, I want to take that line and put it into its own function. Does all that make sense? All right. If I get that done between now and 4:50, I'll give it to you. And if I don't, you'll get it when we start the next class. What we're going to do with the next class, though, just so you know, again, I want everybody to hear this. I don't care if you use one of these copies, one of your own copies, it doesn't matter. We're going to build a standard interface as a class. All right, after we build the standard interface, what we're going to do is we're going to start wiring the stuff up. But as we wire it up, we're also going to go through chapter 2 of that book, because chapter 2 goes through every single one of those screens that you get in Xcode. All right, so at least you're familiar, and I can say, well, here's the file inspector. Here's the object inspector. Here's your library, etc. Especially for those of you who haven't gone through this before. All right, so you've seen it. And if you have gone through this before, it's review. But it never hurts to have a little bit of review. My guess is probably, maybe I'm wrong here, probably a lot of you didn't spend a lot of time doing Swift during the winter break. Again, maybe I'm wrong. I didn't. All right. So that's the plan. And it may take both periods next week to get through that. I don't care. All right. And also, just so you know, because now I didn't hear anybody say they had a big problem with staying with that book. So what we'll do is, other than maybe the first 2 or 3 chapters, when we go through the examples in there, I'm going to bring up the already completed program. All right? Because most of the examples that are in there are so simple. It's go on your screen and then drag this and drag this and drag this. What that'll allow us to do by already having the interface built, all right, is it'll allow us to go in there and dig through and see how you hook this up with this, how do you play with auto layout, how do you do this, how do you do that. And I think you're going to get a heck of a lot more out of that than me saying, drag a label out here now, oh, and make it over, put it over here. I just think that's going to be a waste of time. All right, as we go through it, if you don't think that's working, if you think either I'm not giving you enough detail or we're going too slow or whatever, it's up to you to tell me. All right, does all that make sense? All right, so again, I'm going to try to write one more version of this. I've got 2 of them, and I'm going to try to write one more. And what I'll give you next time, what I'll give you next time is, you know, whatever I complete today, you know, or whatever I complete by next class. All right. And again, just so you know, you already have a working copy of both the playground electronically, because that's what I had you copy over there. So you already have that, and you have an electronic copy of a working prime number program. You've got both those amongst the things that I had you type or key in there today. So you've got that. You also, since I gave you, I think Acrobat is on these machines. I know it's on the one that I have, and I never put it on. So if you do want to ever bring up the PDF on the Mac, you should be able to do that also. All right. I'm going to pause this, and I may eventually just turn it off. Let's see.